कभी सोचा है एक इंसान सिनेमा, एजुकेशन और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप तीनों इंडस्ट्रीज को कैसे लीड कर सकता है? वेल, हेलो एंड वेलकम टू सीयू कास्ट। आई एम योर होस्ट अनन्या ठाकुर एंड आज हमारे साथ हैं एक ऐसे ही विजनरी लीडर मिस्टर रॉनी स्क्रूवाला, जिन्होंने रंग दे बसंती से लेके पूरी तक पूरा नैरेटिव ही चेंज कर दिया है। तो आइए जानते हैं उनकी इंस्पायरिंग जर्नी के बारे में। Hello and welcome to Chandigarh University. Sir, it's a great pleasure to have you here with us.
Super to be here.
How are you and how was your day?
It's been very interesting actually. Just driving around the campus, then walking around the campus. And I caught the lunch break here where everyone is having their own splinter group. Somebody's doing a mini class with 8 people. Somebody's having a brainstorm. 2 people are just staring out at the sky. That's real learning.
And I'd like to ask that what was, according to you, is the best thing that you noticed in Chandigarh University?
I think the diversity. I think the diversity of the people here, the diversity of the students. When I look at the faculty, just the level of commitment everyone has here and the identification, it's all one level. And that's the good part. If a university can show you how important it is that the world is not hierarchical, but it's actually not flat, but it's non-hierarchical. I just picked that up right through the whole university. That was fascinating.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So, if I talk about you, you once said that I'm too busy working on my own grass to notice if your grass is greener. So, आजकल के social media के ज़माने में many creators and founders are comparing themselves to others. So, how would you advise that they should stay focused and not get distracted by all those things, flashy things, social media पे आजकल हर चीज़ glorify होके दिखाई।
See, if your profession is one to on social media and if you're an influencer, then maybe you need to water many grasses to be green on some. But I think when you're pursuing your own career, the most part is, what I meant by that is, focus on what you're doing. We spend too much time worrying about other people think of us.
Yes.
And I think at this early stage in life, it's not easy. It's not easy. But if you can do that, you actually can progress 5 times faster. So I think my context of saying that is just focus on your grass and don't worry about everybody else's. Because if your grass is evergreen, it'll shine and people will come to you. But if you're constantly thinking, what will people think of me, and start to be yourself in the light of other people, it's not going to work.
And so when I was researching about you, I saw that you mentioned that you come from a very humble background, and you said that you are a default entrepreneur. You were a default entrepreneur. So when you were building UTV and RSVP, were there any moments? Obviously there are moments when people feel low. So कभी आपको ऐसा लगा है कि बस अब नहीं? And how did you get all the things and motivation back to you and keep?
Yeah, I think, once you decide that you want to start something on your own, and I think when I say I was an accidental entrepreneur, it's because, yes, at that stage, nobody encouraged it. It was not a good thing to be. So if you want to do that, you are going against the grain. So, and my whole family has been very successful professionals. My brother did his PhD in HR and worked with the best banks in the world. So for me to really go out on my own was very counterintuitive. But I think that journey, once you decide that you want to do, you have to stay with that conviction as you go forward.
Right. And आपको लगता है कि आजकल, as we see, a lot of people, especially Gen Zs, are thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. We everywhere see entrepreneurship is in such a boom. So do you think so it's really from a drive of innovation, or it's from a fear of FOMO?
I hope it's not for the fear of FOMO, but I dare say that for a lot of people, it is. But I don't think it's not for everybody. But it can be for everybody. You need to just be clear about it. And it's not like you need to be born to be that way at all. I think the question is, if it's for FOMO, then you're in big trouble, right? Because that's like anything you would do. That's like joining 3 of your friends who joined a particular sector or an industry in automobile, but your heart is on cosmetics or whatever the case may be. But I think today, India needs entrepreneurship. But if I were to answer the question here, I hope it's not on FOMO. But it's a tough one. The question is not about the first year, 2 years. You think that's the tough part? The real tough part comes when it's 5 years and 6 years.
So, as I mentioned that you once said you were a default entrepreneur.
An accidental entrepreneur.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, an accidental entrepreneur, meaning it was not the force of gravity. Normally people are in a family business and then you become an entrepreneur because your family was in the entrepreneurial business. So I had none of those. And there was no resources. And if I failed the first time financially, there was absolutely zero backup. right? So I think those were what I would call why you were, I was not the normal entrepreneurial candidate.
So it was like there was no backup. So that is why you kept on pushing because you didn't have any other option.
I think as an entrepreneur, you can't have a plan B. In management school, you can have plan Bs. Sometimes in life, you do need plan Bs. That doesn't mean when you think and you strategize, you should not think of options or alternatives. But when you finally figure out your options or alternatives, the fierceness with which you will go about things, it's like a sports person, right? Imagine you want to be an Olympic medal at anything, or you want to be a number one a tennis player or a golf player or any other player. That level of focus and attention cannot have a plan B. And I think literally that you join the army, you join the Air Force, you join the Navy, there's no plan B. You can't say, well, no, today I don't think I want to go die for my country. Or I want to be not sacrificed. So today I don't want to go to the front. Or no, there's no plan B. So I think I wish there would be that sense of discipline. And I think therefore to me, sports, joining the armed forces, working for the government are very strong, lifelong commitments.
Right. You once previously said that India ka jo education system hai, it's kind of outdated. So what do you mean by that? And what difference did you feel here at Chandigarh University today?
Yeah, so firstly, I don't think I'm entitled to make a sweeping statement that India or anybody's education system is outdated. And firstly, I wouldn't say India because an education system is generally outdated everywhere else. And that's nothing to do with the wrong with the education system because it's meant to be the fundamentals. So normally when you've got such strong fundamentals that you need, it's very difficult to disrupt that fundamental. So the only thing you need to do with the present education system is to augment. You can't change the fundamentals, so you have to augment. So you take automobiles or you take anything else that's had innovation, you can have a new model. It's not easy to have a new model in education because that element, whether it's in the US or here, and frankly, I think our schooling system here is very strong. So to me, it was how do we do the plus plus? Because how are we making people more relevant for today's day and age? Because of what you did, everything has an expiry date today. So therefore, your curriculum also has an expiry date. Outside of the fundamentals 20 years back were 90% of what could make a difference in life. That fundamental today has lost its relevance and it's only 20% relevant. So how is that 80% going to get filled up? And therefore you need to augment that. And I think that's the job of everyone. It's not just saying, hey, I'm a student and I'm the victim of age-old this thing. You have the optionality today. And I think what I see here to your second part of the question at Chandigarh University and anywhere now today is that the young people are taking those initiatives that says, I want plus, plus, plus. I've got to get this anyway, I have to go through this part. But it's now 20% relevant for me. What am I doing? Not what I expect. That sense of entitlement can't be there.
And you have greatly emphasized on the importance of soft skills. You have called them super skills as well. So what do you think in coming 10 years should be the parameters of a qualification?
I think super skills is not a add-on. It's almost a mandatory and a necessity. Why are most people who have done very good hard work failing in a job interview? Why are many people who reach the crossroad but can't make that final decision when they want to be self-employed in any form they want to do? Why is that? That is that element of super skills. And for me, the two things that work most, I know people say communication skills, but actually is to connect. You're having this question, you've done your homework, but today I'm having a good conversation with you. If you were just going to read out of there and not make a connect with me, I wouldn't be answering with the same level of enthusiasm. So how do you connect? Because when you connect, you can lead. When you can't connect, you can't lead from that point of view. So to me, that's a major super skill of what you want to necessarily do. And I think the second one is you need to be problem spotting. Today, I keep calling it, you need to read the room. You need to read the situation around you, right? If you're some smart, you're having a conversation, you're sitting in the classroom, you're sitting in a meeting with 8 people, you could be the quietest person. That doesn't mean you're the dumbest person. You could be the smartest person being the most quietest person, just observing what everyone is saying. And at the end, you may have just 5 lines to say versus somebody may have talked for 5 minutes, but that 5 lines could be 10 times more important. And that's super skills.
एंड आपने कहा था कि इंडिया का नेक्स्ट जो इनोवेशन का रेवोल्यूशन आने वाला है दैट इज़ गोइंग टू कम फ्रॉम Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And here at Chandigarh University also a lot of students come from this region
Yes,
only.
yes.
So how do you think this region is going to redefine the...
Tier 2, Tier 3, It's absolutely, I very strongly believe in that because you're closest to the mass market. You're closest to the market. You haven't been spoiled. You don't have a sense of entitlement. So you're close to the market. You understand it. You understand Heartland India. You understand Bharat. You understand your consumer. Yet you haven't come for that sense of entitlement. You don't expect कि यार funding नहीं मिला तो मैं शुरू नहीं करने वाला हूँ कुछ business. So you already had that very down to earth approach.
And you have excelled in many areas like sports, media, entertainment. And what do you think? Because mostly what we see is entrepreneurship में लोग अपना passion follow करते हैं, and it's usually one thing. So how are you able to excel in all those areas?
It's not about all those areas. Firstly, it's not sport. Like I'm not going out and playing the sport, right? So I think it's more about if I think, to me, the passion for sport and promoting sport through our leagues of kabaddi or table tennis or chess or others have been that we need, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, where the armed forces and the sports teach you a certain discipline. And I think we need to move past being a single sport country like cricket. I mean, how much can you watch cricket for 300 days of the year? I'm not a great cricket fan, but I think it's a fantastic sport. Fully that everyone loves it, but we need to have it. The whole world has moved past cricket. We're the only ones actually going around making a single sport. So to me, that was that passion. But if you see education and learning, or if you see media, at the core of it, it's storytelling. We're sitting here having an interesting podcast because you're asking me some relatable factors, which you now think five other people or 5,000 more people at Chandigarh University. They want to listen to some parts of my story that may go click in their mind, even though I may have played it 20 years back, which may not be relevant today, but I'm trying to make it relevant when I talk to you and not keep going back to, but in 1990 or in 2010, because you say, yeah, what is this in 1990?
And one question that I'm really keen to ask you is, like, now in the generation of Gen Zs, what difference do you feel is there in millennials and Gen Zs in their mindset or maybe career wise?
I think they're wired very differently, and rightly so, right? I think the generation which, in media we used to broadcast where there was a younger generation, where we used to be the MTV generation, and we started a channel called Bindas, and then there was the Disney generation, which was also to us the Hangama channel that we started, and that was a generation. But today, I think every 4 or 5 years there's a new generation. People are wired differently, they consume differently, they think differently, and yes, it is fast in a very different manner. And the point is, therefore, the disconnect with the multiple generations actually needs to come together because there's so much you can learn from upwards and downwards. I mean, today, if I'm working in my organization, I try and have people all below the age of 30. Not because that's a dictum. I just think that's going to make the connect much more. It makes me a lot more fresh and approached. People think, oh, but that won't give you all the gravitas and the experience. You'll be surprised. Because I think there is a sense of maturity that comes with that different sense of wiredness. And I'm very, very happy.
And you being one of the most visionary leaders and entrepreneurs in India, what, according to you, are the 3 pro tips that you want to give to all the young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think you have to find your own pro tips would be my first tip. That don't look for anybody else. It's nice to have icons. It's nice to read books. It's nice, but there is no such thing. When somebody asked me who's my one person that I'm with this thing, I said, no, there'll be certain aspects of people because there's no one person because you can not be what somebody else is. So first is make your own 3 icons. Second, the world is moving past. And as I said a little bit before here also today at a much larger gathering was we need to be problem spotters. And I think the younger generation just needs to understand what does that mean? Because the more you understand what you're getting into, because today the time taken to get everywhere is going to be very, very different. And the third is you need to be multidimensional and not unidimensional. I think most of us really get focused in a particular manner and then we get unidimensional. This world today is going to require every generation to be multidimensional. I am reinventing myself to be multidimensional. You have to reinvent yourself to be multidimensional.
So you are one of the most eminent film producers in India right now. So from Khosla Ka Ghosla, Rang De Basanti to Namesake to Devdi, your journey has been so diverse in film productions. And I'm very, very sure that you must be bombarded with a lot of scripts every day. So what is that one common factor that you really look into while you select a script that you want to go ahead with?
To answer that question, I would say, look, storytelling at the core is very different for different people. One of the things is I was an outsider in the media sector and definitely one in the film sector when I decided to do that. And the reason when you're an outsider, if you can't beat them, join them, doesn't work. You have to actually think outside of the box. And I think for me, it became almost mandatory that I needed to think hatke, so to speak. And therefore, I had to do 10 times more work to understand what the audience wanted. Because today, you had incredible amount of directors that were giving anyway what they thought the audience wanted. And the more you give them and the more they lapped it up, everyone, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And here was somebody from the outside that needed to give a different narrative, till one realized that the younger audiences were looking for that narrative. They were looking for entertainment, but they were also looking for some message, sometimes a sense of realism, sometimes a sense of context. So I think over the period of the last 10, 15 years, from the movies that we made, whether it's Lakshya on one side to just heartfelt, I think I would say, and look, I would say out of the 100 movies that one have cumulatively made, 30, 40 will go by the wayside. But the 60 that were there hold good. And I think the track record, normally producers don't have that moment in the sun because it's always about the directors and the actors. But I think the consistency with which I wanted to be outside, the outsider, helped me guide what one wanted to do. And at the end of the day, it's not about message, because if you start making movies just for social messages, it won't work. It'll be nice and some people will appreciate it, but you're not supposed to make things in niche. You're taking a mass media, it has to appeal to a lot more people. And so therefore, a director's vision, it's like entrepreneurship in many ways. It's like backing my own vision on an idea that I would do. And storytelling is an art. I think today it's changed a lot because you're competing with games, you're competing with characters. And I think the stories today are important, but the characters stand out as even more important. I think some of the movies you made were actually where iconic characters stood out more than anything else.
True that. And finally, I'd like to ask to all the watchers, all the viewers of this podcast, what's that one message that you'd like to give to all the young students who are watching this podcast right now?
Look, I think a lot of people will tell you we're at the very, very strong stage. India's shining. India's going forward on that. We're going to have steps and challenges. So be ready for challenges. There is no smooth ride anywhere. There's no one of those things where the tailwind will be there. Headwind will be always larger, bigger, stronger than tailwind. But with every such encounter, you're going to become super smart and super successful. And you're going to be around longer, faster, bigger, better than most people if you go with the headwind and don't keep choosing tailwind every time.
Thank you so much, sir. It was
Thank
great
you.
having you here with us. Thank you so much for your time and perspective,
Lovely.
and hope to see you soon again.